I'm out here with my Nikon F100 today, and along with a pretty funny lens actually that I got in 2020 from a pawn shop for around $100. It's a Tamron 28-105 2.8, and when I saw it in the pawn shop, I was completely shocked. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I was not expecting to see something like this in there. And I never heard anything about this lens. I've never seen anyone talk about this lens, so I was like, it's $100, might as well fucking try, right? But yeah, we got a beautiful fucking morning here. It's, what is it, 19 degrees out here in Toronto, and I think we got some pretty light to make some cool photos with. The area we're in right now is maintained by the school I went to for photography, and I learned about film through this program using the darkroom and learning about alternative processes and the history of photography. So I just really think it's interesting coming back here because shooting film for me at first was just experimentation. You know, I never tried it before. I was learning about it and just wanted to see what it was like. And it was actually on this F100 that I'm shooting with today that I shot those rolls of I think it was just Gold 200. But like, as you can tell, even though I'm shooting black and white today, you can tell that the people who maintain the grounds do a fantastic job. I mean, this is one of my favorite spots to shoot. The colors you get from all the different plant life here and honestly even wildlife. There's a lot of wildlife here in the area of this arboretum as well. I definitely want to come back and shoot color film just to show you guys how beautiful the colors are, but I just think it's really interesting coming back here. Over the 2.5 years I guess just over 2 years I guess now, or 3 years, I don't even know time anymore, but over the 3 years, like, I feel like, as you can see in the photos, that I've hopefully progressed. I think I've progressed in my images. I just like coming back here because the college does such a good job of maintaining the grounds, and it's just a beautiful space to shoot, whether it's film, whether it's making videos here as well. I've shot a lot of videos here, just because the colors you get, the light you get is gorgeous here, and yeah, it's nice to be back. So we're just about done shooting out here. I didn't even realize that the roll was 36 exposure instead of 24. But yeah, I just love how I'm shooting here and I'm getting all these anecdotes in my past. You know, like I said, I was learning here. Like the Arb was the first place in my portrait class where they taught us how to work with natural lighting. And it's just funny thinking about that, because now I see myself as someone who does a lot of location stuff. And when you're working in location, you have to work with the natural light usually you have, or know how to work around it. So I think it's just kind of funny coming back here and reliving all these different little anecdotes I have. First time shooting, first time even learning how to deal with natural light. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with what I shot. You know, the combination of a beautiful sunny morning, light, and film is always a good one. So let's head on side and see what we got. So looking back at the images, I really like how some of them came out. As you saw, we had some pretty contrasty light from the early morning sun. We got pretty lucky with it being pretty direct light with nothing blocking the sun, no clouds, no just haze blocking the sun. So we got pretty lucky on that front. I think my favorite shot of the whole day was the old couple sitting on the bench with their dog. Just the way it's backlit makes it feel very angelic and pretty to look at, especially with the Cinestill kind of halation you get when they remove the remjet layer. Personally, I just really like the way the image looks, and it's very like warm and pleasing to me. I think this film stock is really interesting just because of the way film stocks are made, and I kind of touched on it. So if you don't know already, Cinestill is a repurposed Kodak motion picture film stock where they remove the remjet layer off of the actual emulsion. And what that does is it creates a kind of blooming halation effect around the highlights. And in their color film stocks is very obvious. The halation's generally red over the highlights, and you can see it. And personally, it's a look that I'm a fan of. But I think it's interesting in black and white just because you don't have the color to kind of separate the actual highlight in the image to the halation that's on the emulsion. So it's a lot harder to kind of discern kind of where the highlight stops, if that makes sense. Basically, I feel like in turn you get a lot more of a dreamy look, just with the highlights very bloomed out, and it's very soft and nice looking. A perfect example is this image I took of just the puddle. You can see kind of in the specular highlights closer to the frame that it's very soft again and bloomed out. Generally, you would see specular highlights that are very sharp, and you're very easy can see like, oh, that's like the specular highlight, and that's the bokeh created from the lens. You can also see in the top part of the image where the leaves are, again, it's very glowy. The sun is shooting directly through the leaves, so it's going to be blown out regardless, but you can see how much it spills and how much it kind of just glows out of those leaves. And again, that's kind of a look I'm a big fan of. And just another note of the film stock, I find it's very contrasty, and it's almost kind of gritty, I feel. Reminds me a lot of kind of the movie The Lighthouse, in that it's a very dark, gritty black and white film. And again, it's just a look that I'm a big fan of. Kind of like I said in the beginning of the video, shooting black and white really forces you to think about the composition of your frame and the way things interact in your frame, specifically lines and the kind of shapes they create. And something I noticed just reviewing the images looking back, I really like the images of the trees, mainly because for whatever reason, the trees didn't have full leaves on them yet, or not all of the trees did. So with those shots, the branches have a lot of weight, I feel, in the image, just because they're very, very dark. And that's in combination of the contrasted film stock and the very harsh light, very harsh direct light that we got from the sun. And I really like the kind of vibe it gives. Like I said before, it reminds me of The Lighthouse. It's very just kind of spooky, and seeing the shapes and the lines that the branches create, you can see in these images. To me, I really like them just because they seem like a little bit menacing. They're very sharp and angular, and that just leads to a more, in my opinion, more like of a scary feeling, and I really like that. I did have challenges shooting this film stock because mainly I shoot color. I really like to capture very natural, pleasing looking green tones in my images, accompanied with like very warm, direct sunlight. And I try to compose my images around the direct sun, or the very nice direct sunlight and the colors in the images. But without color, all I'm using is the light. So some of the images that I composed at the time, I thought were gonna look very good just because I was kind of just going based off of my instincts and composing based off colors, even though it's black and white. I knew it was black and white, but I was just still composing that way. Some of the images just come out a little flat because all I have is the light to work with. And the way I compose the image, or just the way the image is lit in general, you lose a lot of maybe the depth you would have got if it was in color. Just trying to be constructive. I like noticing these things in my images and working on and improving on these things in my images to become an overall better image maker. So with all that being said, I really enjoyed using the Cinestill Black and White XXL film stock. If you like very dark and contrasted film stocks, I think this is one that you should try. Also, if you're a fan of the Cinestill halation effect that they have in their images, I think it brings something interesting to the black and white process. I would love to revisit this film stock in a different environment. I think an overcast, rainy type of day would lend really well to this type of film stock. Again, it reminds me a lot of The Lighthouse, and so that type of light, that type of environment would lend itself to this film pretty well in creating some menacing and kind of scary looking images if that's something you're into. I think that's all I've got for this video. If you ever want to hit me up, you can find me on Instagram at Rollins Creative, or the link is in the description. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, whenever you're watching this, and take care.